This podcast deals with true events of a violent and disturbing nature, intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
For 18 years, residents of a small town in Ohio had been deluged with anonymous death threats, slanderous accusations, and even a lethal booby trap. Many believe this vicious campaign has led to the death of one man and the unjust imprisonment of another.
Hey guys, I'm your host Amanda, and this is The State of Perfect Balance. Travel approximately 25 miles south of Columbus, Ohio, and it's quite possible to overlook this quaint small town. Situated along the banks of the Scioto River, Circleville, with its 13,000 residents, is the type of small town we cover, where everyone knows everyone. It's the kind of place where residents can leave their doors unlocked overnight without fear. On the face of it, Circleville is just another quiet, sleepy Ohio town. But if this podcast has taught you anything, it's that not all small towns are safe. In 1976, someone started a terror campaign against the residents of Circleville. And this is their story. One of the first and perhaps most harshly targeted was Mary Gillespie. Mary was a school bus driver, and after years of faithful employment, Mary began receiving strange and threatening letters from a mystery writer. The letters accused her of having an affair with Gordon Massey, the superintendent of schools at the time. Both Mary and Gordon vehemently denied the affair. However, the letters persisted and promised that Mary and her children were being watched. "Don't forget," one letter said, "I know where you live." Mary's husband Ron also began to receive threatening letters, stating, "Put an end to the affair or die." With the letters containing details no stranger could possibly know, it seemed the writer had to be someone close to the Gillespies. So Mary and Ron gathered their family and friends in an attempt to make a suspect list of sorts. Among those invited were Ron's sister and her husband, Paul Freshour. Freshour quickly became suspect number one, and to test this theory, the Gillespies used the rampant panic as a tool and sent Freshour several similarly written letters outlining that they knew who he was and what he was up to. A request to stop all activities without resorting to any violence was included. And that ploy looked as though it had worked. The letters suddenly stopped, but not for long. In the summer of 1976, a letter arrived at the Gillespie home that said, "Gillespie, you have had 2 weeks and done nothing. Admit the truth and inform the school board. If not, I will broadcast it on CBS, posters, signs, and billboards until the truth comes out." And just like that, their tormentor had suddenly reappeared, and that's when real tragedy struck. On August 17th, 1977, Ron received a phone call that absolutely infuriated him, causing him to storm out of the house armed with a gun. Later that day, authorities found Ron dead inside his truck, and the truck was wrapped around a tree. The authorities deemed it a drunk driving accident, though they couldn't explain how or when Ron's gun was fired. That's right, his gun was fired, and police couldn't find a single person who remembered hearing said shot. The autopsy showed Ron's blood alcohol level was 1.5 times the legal limit. However, close friends insisted Ron was not a drinker. In fact, they said, he was a teetotaler. The sheriff was once said to have admitted that there was more to the crash than met the eye, and the phantom letter writer began to get in contact with several residents, almost begging for a more thorough investigation to be conducted. But Mary's nightmare wasn't over. Not by a long shot. She began receiving letters again, too. The threats and vulgar nature of the prose were the same as before. The hostility shown to Mary proved to be too much, and she publicly admitted to the affair taking place, but insisted that it only began after the first letters had been delivered. Despite all the harassment and scandal that made her the talk of the town, Mary managed to keep her job. 6 years after the campaign began, the Circleville letter writer took a bold step in furthering his or her tactics. While at work, Mary noticed a sign en route that threatened the life of her daughter. She immediately stopped the bus to retrieve the sign, and in doing so, she noticed a box with a string tied to an opposite post. Mary removed the box and returned to the bus to open it. Inside was a crude booby trap in the form of a pistol. The trap failed to execute, and once again Mary called the police. It was quickly discovered someone had made an attempt to file off the gun's serial number, but police were able to trace the gun to Freshour, who, not for the first time, insisted he knew nothing about the events. Freshour stated that the gun had gone missing years before. At this point, the gun was the only solid lead the police had. While interrogating Freshour, they persuaded him to take a handwriting test, in which he had to copy some of the Circleville letters. It's worth noting that later, those involved with the investigation would be criticized for the incorrect manner in which the test was administered. But despite this, the sheriff was satisfied that Freshour was the Circleville letter writer, or that the handwriting was close enough, and he arrested Freshour for attempted murder. The trial began in late October 1983, and even though he had an alibi for the day of the booby trap attempt on Mary's life, Freshour was convicted of attempted murder and given a sentence of 25 years in prison, with a recommendation that he spend at least 7 years behind bars. While serving his time, Freshour was considered to be a model prisoner. He rarely got the chance to correspond with the outside world, and in the decade that he was incarcerated, the letters, unsurprisingly, continued. Like before, they were all postmarked Columbus, Ohio, and you guessed it, Freshour wasn't being held anywhere near Columbus. In fact, while in prison, Freshour himself started to receive threatening letters. One such letter said, "Now when are you going to believe you aren't going to get out of there? I told you 2 years ago. When we set 'em up, they stay up. Don't you listen at all?" Paul Freshour was released from prison in May of 1994, and 6 months later, the television show Unsolved Mysteries aired a segment on the Circleville letters. A few days later, the network got a letter of their own. "Forget Circleville, Ohio. If you come to Ohio, you L sickos will pay." Signed, the Circleville writer. The official story is, the letters stopped in 1994, shortly after Freshour's release. However, many residents have said that letters were still being received well into 2003. Many theories and suspects have been put forth, including the son of Gordon Massey, the superintendent of Mary's school district, a very jealous co-worker of Mary's, and Ron Gillespie's sister, who some say might have framed Paul after a very nasty divorce. All said theories have remained completely unfounded. Paul Freshour died in 2014, and many believe he was, in fact, the Circleville writer. But with such little evidence, nobody has ever truly been sure. And to this day, the mystery of the Circleville letter writer has never been solved. Thank you for listening to the first ever bonus episode of The State of Perfect Balance. What did you think? Did you like it? Should we keep giving you bonus material? Let us know. Shoot us a message on Facebook at The State of Perfect Balance or email us at thestateofperfectbalance@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out our Instagram page at The State of Perfect Balance Pod and follow us on Twitter at State Perfect. And remember, lock your doors. Evil lives everywhere. Not all small towns are safe.